Hi, I have read your teaching plans for service learning and have given you feedback in your rubric as well as on your paper. Actually, I think most of the feedback is actually written on the worksheets. Make sure that you go in and read that feedback. If you start on your first teaching plan, your general topic, then you move into the one you did for technology. Service learning was third. You've got interprofessional education as your fourth topic. Make sure as you wrap up this fourth one that you're integrating all of the feedback on prior copies or prior versions of this assignment. My hope is that in preparing for your IPE course that you're going to be presenting, that you feel like you've got a really good handle on how to develop a cogent, thoughtful, well-supported teaching plan. You guys are doing a great job. There are so many very cool ideas that you guys came up with for service learning. Whether it was you going into a community setting and providing blood pressure screenings or BMI screenings. One of you had the idea of doing a food collection and having the nursing students collect all the food and then collate it in meaningful meals that reflected good nutrition for an elderly population and then providing that food to a community center. All of these are fantastic ideas. Several of you talked about at-risk teen moms and what breastfeeding would look like, as well as simple bathing and basic newborn care. All of those concepts in our mind seem very simplistic, but they are so vital to providing that type of care within our community. And we, as educators, are called to really be the front line of teaching our nurses the importance of health and wellness education and prevention. If you bump that up to a greater calling, which is our calling as Christian nurse educators, we are called to be the hands and feet of Christ. And not only are we called to do it, but we're called to inspire others to do it. And that's the idea behind service learning. Isn't just that we're in a community providing a community service, which is great, but the service learning aspect becomes the next generation. It's the second part. It's the icing on the cake. And I do believe it's the biblical calling. If we are teaching our students the importance of service learning and we're giving them an opportunity to serve in their community in a meaningful way, and they're learning relevant concepts, how great is that? And you guys came up with some fantastic ideas. So one of my regrets in this is I don't actually get to see you do these things. All I can think is, wow, how cool would that be? So it was really fun reading all of your great ideas. So same approach for interprofessional education. You can either introduce the concept, which is poorly understood, the hospital setting, if you take the spin of interprofessional collaboration, that's okay. I want you to be focused on an interprofessional concept, and it needs to be focused on the not just doing something, but understanding the concept. Make sure that one of your objectives is focused on the concept of interprofessional education of some sort. So all those pieces need to connect. You've also got your teaching plan presentation that's due next week. I want to remind you that you are to do 10 to 15 minutes of some sort of lecture. If you were talking to an online group of students and your mode is technology based, then you're going to do a voice over PowerPoint because that's your audience. You can't stand in front of them and lecture. If you have a flipped classroom approach and you have nothing but active learning strategies that occur in the classroom, a voice over PowerPoint would be appropriate there as well, because then they'd be at home in their bunny slippers listening to your voice over PowerPoint to prepare to come into class and participate in active learning strategies. If you're doing a traditional lecture, then the next approach is going to be a lecture video of you actually presenting the material. And you can do that in a variety of ways. You can get a regular camcorder to do this. You can do a flip phone. A lot of your iPhone technology will let you use cameras as well. Many computers have integrated cameras, which is what I'm using to stare at you. That's okay. If you happen to have the opportunity to do this in front of an audience, that's even better. But the reality is the logistics of actually doing this formally in front of someone may be more difficult. So the idea is that you want to present this in a meaningful way in the population that your teaching plan has stated it's going to use. So when I look at your your presentation, I'm going to think, okay, well, Susan is doing her presentation on her general teaching plan, and I'm going to pull your general teaching plan and I'm going to look and see, is this making sense? Please know that many of you created outlines and processes for hour-longs or 2 or 3 hour-long lecture, which was way more than what was needed for your teaching plans. 10 to 15, 20 minutes max was what was needed. So you may only be doing a portion of your content. It is important to try to keep this time-wise down to 10 to 15 minutes, and here's why. Loading a file that's longer than that into either converting it into a WMV or voice over PowerPoint that goes into a WMV, whatever you have to do to convert it into a YouTube file. The longer you do it, the larger the file, and then the more nightmarish it is to try to get it to load into YouTube. I have an integrated system. So on my Apple here, I'll video this for you. Normally my videos to you are about 5 to 8 minutes. When I'm done with it, it takes that amount of time to process it into a YouTube video. And I'm using very, very new technology that's all integrated. If you have pieces and parts and your technology is not so integrated, anticipate spending a little bit of time to get it loaded. If you make the mistake of videoing 40 minutes of you presenting something, you're going to be really stressed trying to get this loaded. I also want to remind you to not be overly neurotic to get everything perfect in your presentation. If I did that approach when I'm providing these videos to you, I'd never get it done. How many times you've seen the dogs running around in the background or heard a door open and close, or you've heard me say about 1,000 times. Do the best you can with it. Put your best foot forward. I want to see you demonstrating your knowledge of your material in a professional way. I'm going to pretend I'm in your classroom, and I want to see how fabulous you are. I also want to be able to see you put the rubber to the road to be able to demonstrate, you know what you're doing. I'm a pretty safe audience. So if you can present 10 to 15 minutes of a lecture or course content or a teaching strategy to me, you're one step closer to being highly successful in the classroom. If you're already in the classroom or you're already in an educator role, then this is a piece of cake. You should feel like you're just going to work, and I'm that safe. Make sure you read your rubric, make sure you know what's expected, but know that the idea here is for you to demonstrate how fabulous you are, not to give you an anxiety disorder, not to make you stressed out. Treat this just like you would if you were walking into a classroom. You're going to make missteps. I would really encourage you not to re-record and re-record and re-record. You'll wear yourself out, and that is not reality, folks. We all make mistakes. We say things. We go, ooh, wish I hadn't said that. I do that more often than not. Be real, be authentic, and work through your material. Make sure you're following a teaching plan and let me know which one you're doing so I can follow along. If you have questions or concerns, know that I'm here. I know this is a short week, so you have got busy, busy work to do. Make sure your course evaluations are done and that yours for your site, your preceptor, are all taken care of, as well as your preceptor's evaluation of you. All that has to be done by Friday, so make sure you're chasing those. If you have trouble with your evaluations, Faith Sterling is the person to contact by email or by phone, and she can reset those for you and help you troubleshoot that. I don't have access to that technology to be able to help you with it. So that being said, I hope you guys are having a great week. I think you may have just seen the little puppy tail walk by, and that's Gracie telling me that it's time for her yummies. So I'm going to go feed the puppies and give them a walk. Know that I'm here praying for you. I know that you've worked hard this semester. Stay in touch and let me know if you need anything before Friday. Y'all take care.